Have you ever wondered why the ones with the softest hearts often carry the deepest wounds? Not because they were wrong to care, but because they believed care alone was protection. In a world ruled not by fairness, but by power, goodness without strength becomes vulnerability. Trust becomes a gamble. Kindness, a currency easily devalued. If you've ever been hurt by betrayal, by silence, by your own hope, this message is for you. There is a way to become untouchable, not by closing your heart, but by mastering yourself. Stay with me. What comes next may change how you walk through the world forever. 1. True protection is not passive. It is designed. True protection is not a shield you hold up in fear. It is not a wall built out of timidity, nor is it silence born from helplessness. Protection, in its highest form, is active. It is the unrelenting discipline of a mind that prepares before danger arrives, that observes long before betrayal strikes, and that fortifies not with noise, but with clarity. To be protected is to exist in a constant state of intelligent readiness. It is the conscious design of a life where nothing is left to chance, where your energy, your presence, and even your silences are crafted with intent. You do not wait for the world to be kind. You do not beg for it to be fair. Instead, you build your inner structure so precisely that no blow from the outside can fracture it. This begins with the construction of mental fortresses. You must train your mind to reject delusion and welcome only what strengthens you. You cannot allow fear to make decisions in the dark corners of your mind. You must step into the arena of thought with the discipline of a strategist. You question every belief. You test every assumption. You audit every attachment, because anything you fail to control within, someone else can use against you from without. Reputation is another weapon in your armory. It is not vanity, it is leverage. When you craft your image with care, you prevent others from crafting it for you. When your reputation precedes you with strength, many attacks never come at all. A strong name shields you even when you are not in the room, but if you allow your name to drift untended, you open yourself to every form of manipulation and slander. Machiavelli understood this. So did the Stoics. Both taught that the wise man commands perception, not by deception, but by deliberate presence. Alliances must also be forged with strategic clarity. Trust is not given freely. It is earned through time, through shared trials, through tested loyalty, and even then, it must be watched, because often, the people closest to you are the ones best positioned to betray you. They know your rhythms, your weaknesses, your patterns. They see behind the curtain, and if they do not revere your strength, they may one day resent it. That is why protection is not passive. It requires vigilance. You must not only manage what people say to your face, but what they whisper in your absence. You must understand the intention behind a smile, the calculation behind a favor, the hidden cost of praise. Every social exchange is a negotiation of power, whether others know it or not. In a world where power can be taken with a whisper or a look, you must become dangerous, but disciplined, not violent, not reckless, but unshakably clear. You do not threaten, you do not posture, you simply become someone it would be unwise to cross. This is not about intimidation, it is about presence, the kind of presence that silences a room, not because you demand it, but because you command it without saying a word. That kind of protection does not come from asking others to treat you gently. It comes from building yourself into someone who cannot be manipulated, baited, or broken. It is a quiet form of power, but it is the most enduring. And what of peace? You will not find it waiting for you in the outside world. Peace must be built internally, guarded daily, and protected from the chaos of others. The Stoics taught that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of self-mastery. You are not truly protected until you can remain calm when others panic, still when others tremble, and clear when others drown in confusion. That is the power of discipline. It gives you command over the only battlefield that truly matters, your own mind. So do not aim to be harmless, aim to be composed, precise, and quietly formidable, because in a world where betrayal waits in smiles and weakness invites attack, safety is not given, it is earned. And once you build yourself into someone who needs no shield, you will realize that the greatest protection is not what surrounds you, but who you have become. 2. The powerful create their own safety. The truly powerful never ask for protection. They design their lives so that harming them becomes a costly miscalculation. They do not plead for safety. They engineer conditions where betrayal carries heavy consequences, and disrespect is not just discouraged, but punished by presence alone. Their silence weighs more than most men's fury. Their approval is rare, and their retribution, when earned, is exact and unrelenting. To become such a presence, you must first abandon the false virtues you were conditioned to believe in, the idea that weakness is a form of holiness, that endless sacrifice makes you noble, or that pain itself will one day be rewarded by some universal justice, is a fantasy. The world does not work that way. It rewards strategy, self-mastery, and the illusion of being untouchable. You must begin to reshape yourself, not into a louder person, but into a sharper one. Let your words cut like clean blades. Let your calm unsettle. Let your energy speak what your mouth never needs to. People do not fear the erratic. They fear the precise. Not the person who lashes out in anger, but the one who stays still, measuring. Not the one who speaks to be heard, but the one who listens so intently that others grow uncomfortable under their gaze. The powerful do not react. They calculate. They do not rush. They plan. Even in relationships, those spaces we are told to enter with openness and vulnerability, the wise carry awareness. Love without respect is bondage disguised as comfort. Trust without boundaries is a slow erosion of your will. If you ever allow someone to define your worth, you have already handed them the knife they may one day turn against you. Emotional dependence makes you soft in places where you need to be unbreakable. The balance in any bond is maintained by the ability to walk away. Dignity is not preserved by closeness. It is preserved by sovereignty. You do not need to be feared by everyone. You only need to be understood by the few capable of harming you. And what they must understand is that harming you is a mistake, not because you would beg them not to, but because the cost of crossing you would be absolute. That is the essence of strategic deterrence. True power does not shout. It whispers with clarity. It signals quietly, but undeniably. That retaliation would not be emotional, it would be surgical. The strongest form of protection is the one that lives in the minds of others, the aura that says, without needing to speak, I am not to be provoked, and let us speak clearly about threats. You do not negotiate with those who have already positioned themselves against you. You do not sit at a table with those who have envisioned your defeat. That is not diplomacy, that is delay. History is written in the blood of those who mistook mercy for strength. The person who believes that kind words from a snake mean safety has already lost. Threats do not change because they sound gentle. They change only when their power to harm is stripped from them completely. The weak attempt to reason, hoping to reach something honorable inside their adversary. The strong know better. They understand that by the time someone acts in betrayal, they have already justified it to themselves. They are not looking for reconciliation. They are testing your limits. Every concession you offer to appease a threat becomes a new invitation for disrespect. What you tolerate, you normalize. What you forgive without consequence, you give permission to repeat. And when someone violates your peace through lies, sabotage, manipulation, or direct hostility, you must not warn, You must act, not with chaos, but with composure, not with drama, but with detachment. Remove their access. Disassemble their leverage. Destroy the illusion of their proximity to your life. By the time they realize they have crossed a line, they should already be on the outside, knocking against a door that will never open again. Protection, then, is not something you wait for. It is something you embody, and the powerful are not protected because the world is kind to them. They are protected because they made themselves dangerous to harm, calm, composed, and untouchable. That is how you ensure that nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. 3. You cannot disarm an enemy with kindness. When someone reveals themselves as your adversary, believe them. Do not waste your energy offering kindness in hopes of reshaping what they have already declared. To the hostile mind, your kindness is not virtue. It is opportunity. It is something to exploit. If your adversary is cunning, they will pretend to make peace, not because they value reconciliation, but because they seek more time to prepare their next move. If they are arrogant, they will interpret your hesitation as weakness, as if you are unsure, as if you are too emotionally entangled to respond with strength. But regardless of their approach, one truth remains unshaken. Their intent does not change. Only their tactics do. That is why your response must be clear, swift, and complete. Because if you choose to act, and act only halfway, you do not weaken your enemy, you awaken them. A threat that survives your first strike will always return stronger, sharper, and more determined. History is filled with those who believed mercy would earn them respect, only to find themselves overtaken by the very ones they spared. When it becomes necessary to eliminate a threat, do it with finality. Do not leave the door open for future hostility. Silence can be a powerful weapon, but only when backed by action. If you go quiet while your adversary moves freely, you have not chosen stoic restraint. You have surrendered the battlefield. But if your silence comes after strategic moves have already been made, it becomes a storm that terrifies. It signals that your response will not be heard in arguments or protests, but in results. They speak, but no one listens. They move, but their path is blocked before they take their first step. This is power, not rooted in noise, but in control. There will be moments when old emotions rise, memories of better times, of loyalty once shared, of laughter before betrayal. And in those moments, your resolve will be tested. But sentiment is not strategy. You are no longer dealing with the person you once trusted. You are facing the person they became when they believed you were vulnerable. That shift in their perception is your greatest danger, but also your greatest chance. Break it, not in private, in public if necessary. Let it be known that betrayal has a price. When you act decisively, you do not simply remove the threat. You teach everyone else watching exactly what happens when someone targets you. And let us be clear, elimination does not always mean physical destruction. Sometimes it means erasing their presence from the circles of influence. You make their voice irrelevant. You turn their allies into strangers, their platforms into silence. You discredit without slander, outthink without confrontation, and let the weight of their own desperation undo them. The goal is not revenge, it is security. Peace only exists when the threat is not asleep, but absent. And that absence is earned through clarity and conviction. Do not fall into the trap of negotiation with those who have already drawn lines against you. Negotiation assumes mutual respect, but a person who has chosen to undermine you has already rejected that balance. You owe them no explanations. You owe yourself stability, and if their removal is what grants you clarity, then it is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of justice. Protecting your time, your energy, and your dignity is not selfish. It is the foundation of freedom. There is a kind of tranquility that arrives only when you know the last threat is no longer pacing just outside your door. It does not come from treaties. It does not arise from conversations aimed at appeasement. It is born in the moment of absolute finality, when you have made it clear that crossing you is not something one walks away from easily, when your boundaries are guarded not by emotion, but by consequence. You gain a form of power that no compromise could ever provide. And in that silence, in that certainty, you find not only protection, but peace. Epictetus. 4. Control the story or be defined by it. In the arena of power, truth does not matter as much as perception. The world rarely sees you for who you are. It sees only the reflection others project onto you, and if you do not take control of that reflection, someone else will. When they do, they will not portray you with fairness or accuracy. They will shape you into whatever figure serves their agenda. A fool, a tyrant, a villain, or worse, a laughingstock, because the masses do not crave truth. They crave symbols. They seek to love, to hate, to fear, and to follow. And when you do not define what you represent, they will assign it to you without mercy or understanding. This is the battlefield most never see, the war over meaning, a war waged not with weapons, but with narratives, implications, and perceptions. And it is far more decisive than any physical confrontation. Once your image has been tainted, even unjustly, it becomes nearly impossible to restore. A stain on your reputation spreads like oil on water, covering everything regardless of how clean your intent once was. That is why you must treat your reputation as part of your fortress. Guard it with precision, shape it with intention, speak only when the message is essential, appear only when your presence strengthens your position. Even your silence must be strategic. It must suggest depth, not absence, intention, not passivity. When you speak, speak to shape thought, not to vent, not to explain, but to sculpt how others perceive. Your demeanor should carry an aura of quiet confidence. You know more than you reveal. You are capable of more than you display. This ambiguity is not weakness, it is strength, because ambiguity forces others to guess. And in guessing, they project their own fears and reverence onto you. Power flourishes in mystery. Those who are fully understood are easily dismissed. But those who are partially veiled cannot be disarmed, because no one can predict where their true edge lies. Even your allies can be dangerous if left unchecked. In their eagerness to defend you, they may expose what should remain hidden. They may speak out of turn, revealing vulnerabilities you never intended to share. That is why you must maintain total narrative control. You must craft your own story with such strength that no opposing tale can take hold. And when your enemies attempt to frame you, their version must feel weak, unbelievable, unworthy of attention. This does not mean hiding failure. It means reframing it. When you fall, present it as intentional growth. When betrayed, present your survival as a mark of resilience. You are not the victim. You are the lesson, even in defeat. You remain the architect of the tale. The weak beg to be understood. The powerful ensure they are misunderstood in ways that serve them. This is not deception, it is strategy, because if others fear you more than they dislike you, they hesitate. If they respect your mind more than they question your past, they follow. The worst thing you can do is plead for fairness. Those who chase popularity make themselves vulnerable to the mood of the crowd, and the crowd is fickle. They cheer one day, condemn the next. But what endures is the quiet form of control that flows through suggestion, through rumor, through impressions carefully planted. You must learn to anticipate every attack on your character before it arrives. If someone seeks to discredit you, let them walk into a snare you've already set. Perhaps their hypocrisy has been exposed. Perhaps you have already captured the loyalty of those whose opinion holds real weight. Either way, their version of you dies the moment it is spoken, because your version has already taken root. Be warned, However, your silence only has power if others believe it is purposeful. If they think you have nothing to say, they forget you. But if they believe you are holding something potent, they fear what might come next. This is the balance. Reveal just enough to spark interest, never enough to be fully seen. Mystery is not a game. It is a shield. It keeps others on edge. It robs them of certainty. It gives you space to act without telegraphing your next move, because the one who defines the story defines the battlefield, and when you control the battlefield, you control the outcome long before the first move is made. Let others chase attention. You will shape perception. Let them strive to act louder. You will move through the lens they cannot manipulate. You do not need to be invincible. You only need to be untouchable in the minds of those who might one day try. 5. The deepest chains are the ones you can't see. The most binding chains are not the ones we see. They are not wrapped around wrists or locked behind doors. They live in the mind. They are the quiet, invisible chains formed by the compulsive need to be liked, accepted, and validated. This craving, so common and so subtle, becomes the leash that others can tug at any moment. They do not have to command you. They only have to withhold their approval. And just like that, you retreat, you apologize, you bend. To become untouchable, you must become indifferent to how others perceive you. The powerful do not beg for validation. They create it when necessary and discard it when it loses its usefulness. The majority live not from strength, but from fear. They silence their truth, not out of discipline, but because they are terrified of rejection. They make themselves smaller in the name of harmony, camouflage their ambition to appear agreeable, and sacrifice their identity at the altar of likability. That is not kindness. That is submission in disguise. You must unlearn this sickness if you wish to rise. Approval mimics security. It whispers that if they like you, they will protect you. But life offers no such guarantees. History proves again and again that betrayal often comes dressed in praise. Compliments can be bait. Affection can be camouflage. Those who study you know what to say to get close. They offer flattery to lower your guard. Then they strike when you no longer need applause. You become unreadable. You are no longer a puppet tied to the strings of perception. They cannot blackmail you emotionally. They cannot guilt you into silence. They cannot shame you into compliance. Their strategies depend on your weakness. When that weakness disappears, so does their control. Detachment is not a withdrawal from the world. It is the mastery of response. You speak when it serves your mission, not when it pleases the crowd. You enter a room already certain of your worth. Whether they cheer or scorn, it does not alter your posture. Many cloak their fear with polite phrases. I just want to be kind. I do not want to offend. I value peace. But underneath is a trembling desire to be accepted. That fear must be named, confronted, and eliminated. Ask yourself with brutal honesty, if no one ever praised me again, would I still live the same way? If the answer is yes, you are finally dangerous, not because you intimidate, but because you cannot be seduced by popularity or silenced by criticism. This is where clarity lives. This is where freedom begins. The greatest figures in history were never universally loved. Many were feared, hated, or cast aside, but they moved forward with purpose, not permission. Greatness walks alone before it rises above. Approval is the drug of the average. Detachment is the discipline of the strong. When you stop measuring your life by cheers, you step into a new game, a quieter game, a longer game, one played on your terms. And when it's over, they will wonder how you won without ever needing their applause. 6. Build an inner fortress. No one can touch, no wall of stone can keep harm away if your spirit is unguarded. External defenses can be broken, titles can be revoked, relationships can be betrayed, but the fortress built within you, forged through discipline, self-reliance, and unwavering clarity, is one that no enemy can breach. When your strength is internal, others strike at shadows. They attack your image, your possessions, your status. But if none of these define you, they hit nothing real. The one who fails to build inner strength becomes a slave to external forces. He rises with praise and collapses with criticism. He feels worthy only when loved and worthless when abandoned. That is not a life. That is dependency dressed as normalcy. The more you tie your identity to what others give you, the easier it becomes to unmake you. Real strength begins with the mind. You must become the observer of your own thoughts, questioning everything you believe and removing what weakens your sovereignty. Most people entertain every thought that enters, letting fear, regret, fantasy, and bitterness shape their actions. But you must be the architect of your mind. Ask yourself, does this belief fortify me or expose me? Next, master your emotions, not by suppressing them, but by ruling over them. Anger, when undisciplined, makes you predictable. Guilt makes you manipulable. Love, when not rooted in strength, becomes a leash. Let emotion serve reason. You feel deeply, but you express only what strengthens your position. Let others guess what you feel. Let them see only what you choose to reveal. Practice psychological distance. Be among people, but never entangled in their storms. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. You do not reject connection. You simply do not belong to anyone but yourself. The moment your peace depends on someone else's behavior, you have already surrendered power. Your structure must be disciplined. Routine is not a prison, it is a weapon. It keeps your mind sharp and your will strong when chaos tempts you to waver. Those without discipline are ruled by mood. But you do what is required regardless of how you feel. This is how storms pass through you without shaking your ground. And finally, cut the belief that safety comes from outside. No mentor, partner, or alliance can guarantee your protection. They may support you, but they cannot save you. True power is knowing that you can lose everything and still remain whole. When you become that, you are no longer feared because of what you hold. You are feared because of what cannot be taken from you. That is the foundation of true invincibility. Do not wish for a softer world. Instead, become someone no world can break. Let others seek safety in illusions, while you build quiet strength behind still eyes. You will not beg for peace, you will embody it. If this spoke to you, subscribe for more, comment below with I choose strength, and prepare for what comes next.